Hello?
Hello, Bobby.
Who is this?
A crazed fan with a request.
Listen to me. I have a boyfriend, and he's big, and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you!
His name wouldn't be Steve, would it? Now do as I say and review the Scream films.
Don't worry. I'm reviewing all the first floor right now.
Shut up or I'll cut you like a fish, understand?
Oh, shit!
Ho-ho! What up, guys? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorn. Man, this mustache is getting phenomenal. And if you like it, and you like this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button before we get started. Might as well hit the like button too. You can always unlike it afterwards if you don't like the video. Well guys, I already got my tickets for the 13th. And look, there's something about the Scream franchise, even though all the sequels haven't done as good as the first one and haven't been as good as the first one, there's always a ton of hype around it. And everybody's pretty much along for the ride. But with this fifth one on the horizon, I decided to go ahead and review 1 through 4. So look, when Scream first came out, it swept the nation. Everybody was talking about it. I grew up on horror films, watching with my old man as a little kid. You know, watching all the greats like Freddy, Jason, Michael, Leatherface, Chucky, Pinhead. I can keep going. But at this point in 1996, we pretty much thought that horror movies were dead. And we still had horror movies coming out. They just weren't abundant and they weren't pop culture. They weren't in the limelight. They were either psychological, they definitely weren't slashers. And if slashers were coming out, they were definitely shit. But the days of a new horror icon coming into play, we felt like were just long gone. Nobody ever thought that another slasher horror icon could actually make his way into the panel. But Ghostface did, baby, and it was in the 90s. All these other ones were from the 80s. Now, when you're talking about the horror greats, you got John Carpenter, then there's the Sean S. Cunningham, Victor Miller tag team that did Friday the 13th. But none of those guys created two icons that became huge within the horror industry and outside the horror industry. So much to where he's along for the ride on a lot of these games like Dead by Daylight. You've got all these other characters on there, and Ghostface is on there too. I'm not saying that John Carpenter and Clive didn't have other horror hits, because they did. And Clive kinda had two horror icons coming in there with Pinhead and then Candyman, but most of the sequels after that weren't just lesser of sequels, they were bad. The only Candyman out of the original franchise that's good is the first one. But for Wes Craven to create Freddy Krueger, which again, everybody knows who Freddy Krueger is, and then come along years later and create Ghostface, I think that's awesome and mad respect to Wes Craven. So when I first saw Scream, I have to give credit to my buddy Matt Pilcher. Even though I was an avid horror fan, like I said, I kind of thought horror was dead. So I really wasn't even paying attention to Scream like I should have been. I wanted to see it, but I wasn't going to the theater rushing to see it like I should have. But my buddy Matt, God love him, he dragged me to the theater. We went to the Dollar Theater and saw this by ourselves in the afternoon. We were the only ones in the theater. And honestly, I thought this movie was gonna be cheesy, like the way they had gone with Halloween 5 and Hellraiser 3 and stuff like that. Boy, was I so wrong, and I was so pleasantly surprised. I mean, within seconds, you're reeled into this movie.
Hello?
Hello?
And that's another thing. We had seen stuff like Psycho, where Janet Leigh had got killed in the beginning, but that was so long ago, and we just weren't used to that anymore. So when I'm watching this movie, me and everybody else are thinking that Drew Barry's the main character of the film. I'm thinking it's gonna be like she gets attacked in the beginning, and then the rest of the movie, the killer's on the loose trying to hunt her down, and people get killed along the way. Something like that, you know, generic slasher. No, man, it was way different than I expected. I mean, I was loving it. And the fact that Drew Barrymore gets killed right in the beginning, woo! I thought that that was our star, and she's dead. And it was a brutal death, too. But man, we gotta talk about that voice, played by Roger L. Jackson. Yeah, that's his name.
Hello?
I'm sorry, I guess I dialed the wrong number.
Right away, when you're hearing that voice, you're creeped out. You're like I said, you're reeled in. At first, it just sounds like this guy having some flirty banter with this girl over the phone on a Friday night.
You making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
And then when he says,
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
oh man, chills up my spine. And while you're completely invested in this opening scene and just getting tensed out and biting your fingernails immediately, they're having all this fun with the dialogue, referencing the big three, talking about who's the killer in Friday the 13th. He's questioning her. He's having this fun with her. And it's kind of funny how Wes Craven pokes fun at all the sequels right here for a second.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right.
I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
But I mean, everything to when he's just saying, can you handle that, Blondie?
You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
Can you handle that? Blondie.
He's ringing at the doorbells. Boyfriend Steve is out there.
His name wouldn't be Steve, would it?
His name wouldn't be Steve, would it?
And man, he guts Steve right there on the porch. At that point, I was just like, all right, this is a cool horror film, and it's a new horror film. I was not expecting this. But as she's running and you see him in the house and all that shit, you see the parents driving up, and that's when I'm like, oh, all right, you know, I'm still thinking she's gonna survive. Man, when he stabs her and everything like that, and then look, I think he stabs her in the neck. It looks like he does. Because then later on, she's like trying to yell mom and her vocal cords are all cut. But that whole chase is just such a nail biter. You know she's right outside and the parents are coming inside, but the music is awesome. Cinematography is awesome. I mean, all of it is just badass. And all of a sudden she walks on the front porch and you see that camera shot zooming in on dead, hung in the tree, gutted Drew Barrymore. Oh my God! I could not believe what I was watching at the time. I literally was just having chills in the theater because I was just thinking to myself, horror's back. That opening scene already was enough for me. And in fact, after that point, I'm starting to think, all right, well, was that gonna be the best part of the movie? But no, it continues to get amazing. Not only is it cool and stylish, but the story is awesome, very original for the time, and it revamped horror. It single-handedly brought horror movies, especially slashers, back to Hollywood. And it did it in such a cool way by being this self-aware film that made fun of horror movie tropes. I mean, it slightly makes fun of the genre while consistently paying tribute to the genre, and then it's also creating its new style of a genre, a 90s style of horror. It's brushing the dust off of something that was old and always there and just making it new again, sort of reminding people, hey, remember when you liked watching horror films? But everything about this movie works. The pace, the story, the characters, the music. The comedy.
I'll be right back.
All of it works. And let's not forget the direction on top of it all. Wes Craven's direction is so good in this. I mean, immediately when you're watching this movie, especially if you were a teenager, at the time this movie came out, you fully connected to this film. You were in it. It just made you look at horror movie characters in a way you had never looked at them before. But the cast was great at the time, and most of these people were nobodies. Courtney Cox was getting famous because of Friends, for sure. And David Arquette had kind of had this weird indie career, and Neve Campbell was only known for her Party of Five stuff. Remember that show? Yeah, talk about 90s. Anyways, I'm getting off track. But then you got Skeet Ulrich, which at the time, I swear I thought that was Johnny Depp. Look at him. I'm telling you, at the time, it looks exactly like Johnny Depp. Matthew Lillard, a new up-and-coming guy, which I loved him in it. Jamie Kennedy, Rose McGowan. And then you got a classic, Henry Winkler playing the principal. Man, that guy can do everything. But just the way you're getting to know the characters right away at the beginning when they're sitting out at that water fountain, because it introduces you to this school of like, oh, somebody got murdered. Casey Becker and Steve.
Talking splatter movie kill, ripped open from end to end.
But just the feeling of it alone when you're seeing all these high school students walking into high school and there's always cameras and like cop cars around, just felt like high school. But after this opening scene of the fountain, you know every single character in the movie the way you need to know them. You know, Randy's got his comedy going on, so does Matthew Lillard, but he's also a little flirty slut guy. I love Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy's lines though.
Never alone. Was that before or after he sliced and diced?
Not only is it a slasher, but it does a really good job of doing the whodunit thing, pointing the fingers constantly throughout the film, making you create theories in your mind, making you want to guess. Like if you're watching it with your friends, you're definitely like, oh shit, I bet it's so-and-so.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
And the movie also does a lot of good fake jump scares and false scares. And most of the time in films, I don't like that. I feel like it's cheap, but in this one they do it so subtly that it actually has you on the edge. Like before they try to scare you even with it, you're kind of like, is he gonna be there? And just the whole costume, the ghost face costume, I love it. It was so simple, but so genius. And then when Ghostface calls again and starts talking to Sydney for the first time, that's when we hear the notorious line.
Tatum, just get in the car.
Hello, Sydney.
And I also love it when he says, I'm not Randy, because she thinks she's talking to Randy at first. I mean, it's just so creepy and so effective.
Maybe that's because I'm not Randy.
She's talking about all those cliches about running up the stairs. It's insulting, but then later on, the killer busts in there and she runs up the stairs. And it's great because, like I said, it's being self-aware. It's making fun of the tropes, but then it's like making you believe, oh, but that's why she ran up the stairs. I believe it. So now we know at this point there's a killer out there and he's trying to kill people and he's calling them on the phone with this fun voice.
Shut up or I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
It's pretty good, huh? Another great thing about this movie, because it was in the 90s, hardly anybody had cell phones at the time. So the fact that Billy jumps in and he hugs her and she thinks that he saved the day and everything, and then he drops his cell phone and she's looking at him, she has every right to be suspicious because back then nobody had a cell phone. If you did, you were hot shit. And then right away, that Dewey scare we get with Dewey holding the mask at the door and he turns around and just does the whole, ah! And speaking of Dewey, his character is great by David Arquette. Him and Rose McGowan, Tatum, their brother and sister, and just their dynamic is great. The way she makes fun of him in front of the cops at the scene, at the police station.
God damn it, Dewey.
What did Mama tell you? When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
I'm sorry, Deputy Dewey Boy. Now, okay?
At home even, and he's hilarious at home when he's answering that phone. Sounds like Keanu Reeves.
Hello.
Look, I was trying to go over my notes here and talk about all these quotable lines in here, but there's just so many great quotable lines. So I'm just going to show a bunch of them.
I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
And what movie is this from? I spit on your garage. Oh, damned.
What?
Jesus, the camera, hurry!
My name isn't Jesus.
Because let's face it, Sydney, your mother was no Sharon Stone. Certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
I'm gonna swing by the video store. I was thinking Tom Cruise and all the right moves. You know, if you pause it just right, you can see his penis.
Besides, it takes a man to do something like that.
Thanks, Hank. We're on top of it.
After this movie came out, a slew of copycats came out. Urban Legends, I Know What You Did Last Summer, hell, Halloween H2O is trying to be like a Scream movie. But I love when they throw that party at the end, though. Randy starts giving out all the horror movie rules.
Number one, you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no!
They're watching Halloween. It's so homage-filled at this point of the film, and it's been this way the entire movie. That's just so, like I said, so genius of a film, reminding you of why you loved horror films. And the movie's not full of a ton of kills. It's got good kills in it, and there's plenty in it, but it's not like just kill after kill after kill, and I think that's part of what makes it so good. In fact, most of the kills happen in the end. Yeah, Henry Winkler, the principal, gets killed at school. That's when you get that awesome Wes Craven scene where he looks like Freddy Krueger.
Damn little shits.
Would you call me?
But most of the kills actually happen in the third act, or like after the second half of the film. But that third act, once it starts really getting some momentum and you start really wondering who's who, everybody leaves and it's just the main characters left, except for Tatum. She's been killed in the garage. But I love how it's just pulling you back and forth. It's making you, as an audience member, like not know. I really don't know. You feel like Sydney. But then I'm about to give spoilers if you hadn't seen Scream. Once we realize that it's the boyfriend, even though we should have seen it coming, we're still surprised because we thought we saw him get killed upstairs. But then we see that Stu is involved with it too.
Surprise, Sydney.
I did not see that coming, and I can guarantee you nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw two killers coming in this movie. Genius. Because you're all focused this entire time thinking it's just one killer. Nobody even thought to think about, what if there's two killers doing this? That's not what everybody was thinking. But when Billy turns around and he just does the whole psycho line.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No!
Awesome. Like I said, full of homages in this film.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
I mean, so much that when Randy's passed out on the couch and the killer's creeping around behind him, Halloween's on the TV and they're just using the music from Halloween as the music for the film, and it works great.
Oh, there he is. I told you. He's right around the corner.
You can tell this movie was so clever, so well thought about, and worked on for so long. I mean, they even found a way to incorporate the title of the movie in the dialogue of the film.
Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby.
So we're already blown away by the fact that there's two killers, but once we find out the motive behind why they're doing it and why Billy's all upset, The whole like mother abandoning him because of the affair with Sydney's mom and all that shit. Man, really good. I mean, when I saw that, I was just like I said, the movie has everything. It pulls you this way with action. It pulls you this way with horror and scares and thrills. It's got comedy. Emotionally, it gets you involved. Oh man, and when Dewey gets killed, so you think, you end up seeing him at the end of the movie being rolled out in a stretcher and he's alive, which becomes a fun ongoing joke in the series. Oh yeah, and I gotta talk about too, like at the very end, just like we're thinking when we all watch horror movies, we're like, he's not dead, he's not dead. They verbally address that in this movie before it happens, and it happens, and it's just so satisfying.
This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Like I said, this movie's great and did such an awesome job at reminding people why they loved horror. A+. This is in my top 20 horror films of all time, no question. I'm firm on that. Well, that'll do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Be looking for my Scream 2 video coming out soon, because I'm going to see Scream 5 on the 13th. Oh yeah, and one more thing. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh